There's one idea in obesity medicine right now that could quietly change everything for patients. Not more weight loss, not a stronger weekly shot, not another race to see who can move the scale fastest. I'm talking about something much simpler and potentially much more powerful. What if obesity treatment didn't have to be weekly? What if it could be monthly, or every other month, or even quarterly and still work? Because if that becomes real, this stops being a high-intensity routine you have to constantly manage and starts becoming something you can actually live with. That's the bet Amgen is making. And they said it plainly on their Q4 2025 earnings call on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Amgen's chairman, president, and CEO, Robert A. Bradway, told investors that their obesity program, MariTide, offers what he called the paradigm-changing prospect of strong efficacy and favorable tolerability at monthly, every other month, or even quarterly dosing. That's not just a science update. That's a strategy. Welcome back to the Downsized. My name is Christopher Durham. My wife Lorraine and I have been on GLP-1s since September of 2023. Together, we've lost more than 150 pounds treating the disease of obesity. We've paid out of pocket, we've lived the access challenges, and we've learned that what happens in earnings calls eventually shows up in real life at the pharmacy counter and in your monthly budget. We're not doctors, we're not lawyers, we're not analysts. This is not financial advice or medical advice, but this is where these companies tell the truth about what they are actually building and how they expect patients to use it. This video is the final installment in our four-part series breaking down the earnings calls from Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Pfizer, and now Amgen. Lilly showed us what dominance looks like. Novo showed us what defending legacy looks like. Pfizer showed us what rebuilding credibility looks like. And Amgen is showing us something completely different. What it might look like to design a treatment around sustainability. This call was led by Chairman, President, and CEO Robert A. Bradway alongside EVP of Research and Development James Bradner, Executive Vice President of Global Commercial Operations Murdo Gordon, and EVP and Chief Financial Officer Peter H. Griffith. And the question they seem to be wrestling with is not how to win the performance race. It's how to make treatment livable. Amgen is not entering obesity as a company in need of rescue. They're entering it from a position of stability. As Robert Bradway put it, 14 of our products achieved blockbuster status with sales of $1 billion or more. They generated $8.1 billion in free cash flow last year and retired $6 billion in debt. That's right, they paid off $6 billion worth of debt. They are forecasting between $37 and $38.4 billion in total revenue in 2026. Perhaps more importantly for patients watching the future of obesity treatment, they invested $7.2 billion into research and development last year, a record level according to Peter Griffith. They are also preparing for future launches by expanding manufacturing capacity, with capital spending expected to increase to $2.6 billion this year, including preparation for MariTide. Now that tells you something. It tells you something important. Amgen is not rushing into this space. They have the ability to take a long view, and obesity is a long view disease. Amgen did not position MariTide as the strongest therapy in development. They positioned it as something fundamentally different. And honestly, I think it's something the analysts aren't quite getting. Bradway described it as offering the paradigm-changing prospect of strong efficacy and favorable tolerability at monthly, every other month, or even quarterly dosing. That's not a statement about peak performance. It's a statement about persistence. James Bradner made that explicit when he said MariTide has the potential to enhance treatment persistence, a major unmet need in the field. That lands in a very real way for patients. Because most people do not stop treatment because it fails. They stop because it becomes difficult to sustain. The side effects become too much, the cost becomes too much. The drugs might actually be working, but they can't do it. When Amgen's EVP of Research and Development, James Bradner, began discussing MariTide on the call, he didn't frame it as a single study or a narrow opportunity. He framed it as a growing clinical program. He said the MariTide Phase 3 program is rapidly advancing and noted that both of the company's chronic weight management Phase 3 trials are now fully enrolled. But Amgen is not studying MariTide in isolation of broader disease. Bradner explained that cardiovascular and heart failure outcome studies are also progressing, and that Amgen has begun enrollment of 2 phase 3 sleep apnea studies in adults, both with and without positive airway pressure therapy. He then summarized the scale of the effort in one clear statement. Altogether, we now have 6 global phase 3 studies underway with MariTide, collectively designed to deliver a comprehensive evidence base. That reflects a platform approach, testing the therapy across obesity and its related conditions. Bradner also referenced completed phase 2 work, including part 2 of the chronic weight management study and the first 24 weeks of a phase 2 type 2 diabetes study involving participants both with and without obesity. He said those results further increased our confidence that MariTide can represent a new paradigm in obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other obesity-related conditions. From there, he moved to what may be the central strategic idea: persistence. He described MariTide as offering an opportunity for monthly or less frequent dosing, and added that its profile has the potential to enhance treatment persistence, which is a major unmet need in the field. The theme carried into the Analyst Q&A. When asked how MariTide fits into a market built around weekly therapy, Murdo Gordon, EVP of Global Commercial Operations, acknowledged a broader market dynamic. There's dissatisfaction with the weekly GLP-1s. He pointed to the rapid uptake of oral therapies as a signal that patients and prescribers are looking for alternatives that are easier to live with. He then described how Amgen sees MariTide potentially fitting into that environment as a therapy that could move patients from initiation to maintenance with less frequent dosing. He said for those patients who achieve their weight goal, to convert to an every 8-week or every 12-week dosing regimen to maintain that weight and or the metabolic benefits of their therapy is huge. And importantly, he added that this approach could apply beyond new starts. There may be patients out there on other therapies that want to switch. Bradner reinforced this perspective when he pushed back on the assumption that less frequent dosing must come at the cost of effectiveness. He said, "I'm going to reject part of the premise that less frequent dosing is an absolute trade-off for efficacy." He referenced the concept of defended fat mass, the idea that preventing regain reflects a reset in body weight regulation, and added, "We might expect to see schedule-ranging effects, individualized for patients." That introduces the possibility that dosing frequency itself could become an adjustable component of care. Gordon later summarized MariTide's potential role in the market in simple terms when asked whether it could serve as a starter therapy, maintenance therapy, or switching option. The answer is all of the above, he said, and the Q&A revealed something else. Bradner noted that MariTide is not Amgen's only obesity-related asset. He said the company has another clinical stage candidate, AMG 513, now progressing through phase 1, along with emerging programs that are both incretin-based as well as non-incretin-based, injectable as well as oral medicines. He concluded, "You should expect us to be competing broadly in the field." Finally, Amgen CFO Peter H. Griffith signaled that the company is already preparing operationally for what could come next. He said planned capital investments are intended to support future launches, including preparing for MariTide's launch. Taken together, the pipeline discussion and Q&A make clear that MariTide is the lead effort, but not the only one, and that Amgen is positioning itself to participate across the evolving obesity landscape, rather than relying on a single solution. Now, if you remember my car analogy from the last few episodes, let's kind of play that out and see how it works. So, if Lilly's retatrutide is a Corvette built for performance, tirzepatide is a Chevy truck, dependable and powerful, Novo's Wegovy is the Honda Accord, proven and widely adopted, Pfizer is trying to get back into the conversation. Amgen is trying to become the Volvo, not because it wins the race, but because you can live with it for a long time. It's reliable, it's persistent. If Amgen succeeds, they could create a different kind of leadership in the space, one defined less by maximum output and more by long-term sustainability. But none of that matters without affordability. Convenience does not help patients if access remains limited. If Amgen wants to be the hero in this story, Their opportunity lies not only in designing treatments people can live with, but in making sure people can realistically stay on them. Persistence requires affordability, and affordability remains the biggest barrier. Now, we're still looking at, a little ways out on all of these drugs, and there's not any pricing conversations, but as always, we encourage them to make these drugs affordable and accessible. We encourage them to come to market at a competitive price. We love seeing these 4 players compete head to head, and we look forward to reporting on additional players as we go. The more players we have in the market, the more opportunity we have for everyone to be served in multiple pathways with multiple price points. The notion that any one drug is going to win this game is silly. We don't need one drug. We need 20 drugs. It's the car analogy. I need to be able to drive down the street and find the thing that works for me at the price that works for me and the time that works for me, such that everybody has an option to get healthier and build a better life. Because ultimately, this isn't about selling drugs. It's about a healthier life. This concludes our 4-part series examining the earnings calls shaping the future of obesity treatment. Understanding these strategies helps us understand where access, availability, and long-term care may go next. And this is where I want to hear from you, because this isn't just about pipelines and phase 3 studies. It's about how you live with this disease. So let me ask, would you choose a medication designed to help you stay on long-term, even if it wasn't the fastest? Does maintenance matter more to you than maximum weight loss? Would you switch from a weekly therapy, something built for long-term persistence? And here's the bigger one. Do you believe the future of obesity treatment is about losing weight or about keeping it off? If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. My name is Christopher Durham, and we are The Downsized.